In this video I'm going to reveal my transfer plans for this game week, my transfer plans for the future double game week, the best players to buy in each position, and the best fixtures for attackers and defenders. If you're a returning viewer and you've not yet subscribed, you might as well click subscribe now, you've come back for a good reason. First up is double Arsenal defence. They did fail to keep a clean sheet last game week. I didn't necessarily expect it against Brighton away though, and I don't expect it against Spurs at home this game week either. Whilst I have jumped down from triple Arsenal defence to double Arsenal defence, I'm not going down to single Arsenal defence because it's Villa at home next game week and then Wolves away the game week after that, which isn't bad. I won't be selling Raya right now because there's only one other goalkeeper who I expect to get more points, which is Alisson, and I don't want to block that third Liverpool slot right now, and I don't think it's worth spending a free transfer in that position. I might buy Pickford ahead of the double, especially if I want to reinvest those funds. As for Gabriel, I am going to keep him for the long run. He's still one of the best defenders in the game, and it is because of that attacking threat. Obviously he plays for the Arsenal defence, but when you've got a defender with that high attacking threat, there's a much higher upside with the defenders compared to goalkeepers, which is why I'm more likely to keep Gabriel in my team. Quite a while ago I bought Martinez as my fourth defender to cover Arsenal and Liverpool when it gets difficult. Now I did sell Timber last game week, but Martinez still comes in this game week against Southampton at home, which is a favourable fixture, and regardless of what a lot of people say about United's defence recently, they won't say that they only conceded one goal in 120 minutes at the Emirates, and that was with a red card for a lot of it as well. People were scaremongering on Twitter this weekend when Trent started in the Cup. He did come off quite early and he got himself an attacking return. Personally, I don't think he's a rotation risk. You could argue that Conor Bradley is better at defending than Trent, and I wouldn't argue with that, but Trent is much better at attacking, and whilst you're playing against Forest away, you do want more attacking players in your team than defensive players if you have that choice. That's because Forest are very hard to break down. Their expected goals conceded figure is one of the best, and their expected goals figure is actually not that good. I know Wood has outperformed his XG, which won't be sustainable in the long run, but that can be misleading to look like the Forest attack is better than what it actually is. So in summary, for Trent this game week, I'm expecting more of a defensive return than an attacking return. It is nice that he's got that high attacking upside, but I don't think it will be easy for him this game week. Whilst we're on the topic of defensive players, here's the best fixtures for them. The number one goalkeeper I suggest is Alisson, and that's if you've not already got at least double Liverpool, or you don't mind blocking that assistant manager chip. That's of course because of the double game week, and for the exact same reason, if you can't meet those Alisson requirements, or you can't afford him, Pickford's a very good option. I might possibly buy him myself ahead of that double game week. A lot of people will write off Everton players for the double game week. That's because of course they're Everton players and I completely understand that. But if you have a look at the points projections, and it is the same every season, when you've got an additional fixture in there is of course a higher ceiling to get more points, and a higher floor to get more points as well from just appearance points, but there is that potential to get more returns, more bonus points, even if it's not favourable. If you are going to target those unfavourable teams, a goalkeeper is a good way to do it, because the point ceiling's not very high, the points aren't very volatile for the goalkeeper position, therefore the expected value contributes a higher percentage to what it already was. If you really need to buy a keeper, and you can't afford a double game week one, the prices start at least 5 mil, then you could go for a budget goalkeeper, and I think the best option is for Bruggen at 4.5 mil. The defenders I'm about to suggest follow a very similar pattern to the keepers, and that's because of the double game week. First of all, I think Trent is the best defender in the game to own right now, and I know that is expected with his price tag, but that's not always the case. Right now there's a high upside. Not only does he provide that attacking threat, Liverpool have got the best defensive fixtures in the whole league, and that's because they've got an additional fixture on top of everyone else but Everton. If you need to buy a defender and you can't afford him, Munoz is only 4.7 mil, he's got favourable fixtures, and he's a very attacking player. Whilst Mykolenko hasn't provided that high attacking upside, especially under Dyche, he's only 4.3 mil, and if you've got at least 3 other defenders that you can start most game weeks, you can just bench him and gain from the double game week. But he is under Moyes now, who got more out of Baines, and I'm not saying that he's going to provide anywhere near as much of attacking output as Baines did, but if Baines was playing under Dyche, his attacking output would be a hell of a lot lower. Therefore, Moyes might have more potential of getting more out of him. To be fair, you've got that other argument. Will the defence be just as strong under Moyes as it was under Dyche? Personally, I don't think it will be just as strong, but I do think it will be nearly as strong. Either way, he's only 4.3 mil, so I do think there's potential for high value for money there, especially with the extra fixture. Moving on to the bench, I do prefer Fabianski's fixture against Fulham than Raya's fixture against Spurs, but we know the Arsenal defence is solid. I know that West Ham have got a new manager, which is Potter, and personally I think he'll do very well. I would rather have had him at Everton than Moyes. I'm not saying Moyes will do bad, but I do think Potter is a good manager. Personally, I'd like to see more from Potter at West Ham to see how good that defence will actually be. Something I've noticed is that West Ham's defence has been poor under a couple of managers now, and that might still be the case anyway. My first outfield player on the bench is João Pedro against Ipswich away, which might look very weird. That's just because he's flagged in the game right now. This is ahead of the press conferences, and you're about to see I've got 7 favourable attackers. There is potential for one of my other forwards to not play as well. Hopefully one of them's ruled out, so I've not got that benching headache. My first defensive cover on the bench is Castagna against West Ham away. That's not too bad. Fulham have a strong defence, but let's see how Potter gets on at West Ham. Like I said earlier, I did mention the defensive department, and that is the same for the attackers as well. Buried deep on my bench is Van den Berg. That's against City at home, and I don't care what anyone says about Brentford's home form or City's form in general. That is an unfavourable player to get anywhere near my first team. Moving on to midfield, Palmer and Salah compete for captaincy as usual. There is a big opportunity to go against Salah this game week. Forest away is a difficult fixture from an attacking perspective. Isak's also in the mix against Wolves at home. That's a very easy fixture. It's easier than what Palmer and Salah have got. I'm not going to spoil the best captain video. Just make sure you watch it after this if you've not already. I did discuss Isak's potential injury in there as well. Don't forget this video has been recorded before the press conferences. Considering the potential captaincy rotation, I am going to keep these 2 premium midfielders for the foreseeable future. If you want to see my captaincy matrix, head over to my Patreon and subscribe on there. I have been suggesting Gordon for quite a while now, and in all 7 of his last 4 matches, he's returned in every single one of them. I finally went and bought him last game week. It was the right time to do it to sell a player in my team, and he went and scored, which isn't very surprising. I fancy him again this game week against Wolves at home. It's Bournemouth at home after that, which isn't very easy, but it's not difficult either. Then it's Southampton away after that, and that's a favourable fixture again. A couple of game weeks ago, I went and bought a couple of Palace players ahead of the favourable fixtures, which are far from over yet, and you will see that shortly. Unfortunately, Sarah's blanked twice, but luckily enough, Eze's gotten a goal and assist in that time. I'll definitely be keeping Eze for the next few fixtures, and I'll probably keep Sarah as well. If I was suggesting a midfielder, apart from the obvious highly owned ones, I'd suggest Eze again. I have been suggesting him for a few game weeks now. That has paid off. I did put my money where my mouth is as well. I think it's worth capitalising on those next few fixtures. If you want to spend a little bit more money in midfield, apart from the obvious highly owned ones, I think Bruno is a good FPL option again. I would consider ripping my team apart if he had better fixtures, and the next one is very favourable to be fair, but in the long run, I don't think it's worth ripping my team apart. For months, every time I suggested a forward, it's always been Isak, and it is the same again this game week if he's fit to play. This is recorded before the press conferences. If he's not, there's not really any other standout. I do love the upside of the double game week, and if you do need a cheap forward, and Dye is a really good option. He played sole striker in the cup, and he was on penalty duties. If that continues, I'll probably buy him for the double game week. He's only 5.4 mil. As an Evertonian, I can give you some insight on Dye. He passes the eye test. He's a very talented player. Anyone that's seen him play will agree with that. He's our best attacking player, and I do think Dyche's defensive tactics limited his output. Hopefully there's a higher output under Moyes, like we've seen from Cahill, Fellaini and Rooney in those second forward / attacking midfielder roles. That's where Dye's at his best anyway. He does tend to have a much higher attacking output when he plays central. Up front is Isak. I'm hoping he's fit and available to play. He's got 11 attacking returns in the last 7 game weeks with no blanks whatsoever, and that's why he's in the running for captaincy. Whether I captain him or not this game week, I really fancy him against that poor Wolves defence with the home advantage. That's if he plays anyway. If he is ruled out, that would solve my benching headache because João Pedro would just step in, and if he's not ruled out for the long term, I'd just leave him on the bench because I still want to keep him for the next few fixtures. Lastly is Jackson, and he is starting for now, but if I was to drop someone out of this first 7, it would either be him or Sarr. The reason I'd be considering him is because his expected minutes are actually quite low at the minute. There has been a lot of rotation recently, and I don't think Bournemouth are a very easy opponent, but at least he's got the home advantage. So in summary, I'm hoping either João Pedro or Isak are ruled out. That solves my benching headache, and I am likely to roll my 2 free transfers. Right now there aren't any obvious transfers that I can make, they'd just be luxury transfers. I am likely to spend a couple of free transfers on chasing the upside of the upcoming double game week, maybe one on the assistant manager chip as well. I will start discussing chip strategy more as we get more information. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss any of that. Make sure you watch my best captain video if you've not already. It might be worth going against Salah this game week because he has got a tough fixture.